Hello. Let me ask you the question. This is a thing that will probably come back around later. Have you ever noticed when people try to get you incited with really, really dire things that more often than not, they're not telling the truth? And it turns out those things fall apart later. We'll get into some of that as the morning goes on. How are you? Welcome to our broadcast today. Hunter, it's good to see you. I think Hunter's the only one who has chimed in this morning. That's a little slow for this morning. We got a lot of people piled in, but only one person has chimed in so far. So good to have you here on this Thursday morning. It is July the 23rd. In July, I was really kind of disheartened this morning when I saw. I think it was on WSAV.com. I didn't grab it for the broadcast for the stream here for a very serious reason, which is I don't want people to start crying. Yeah, it was in the Savannah Morning, WSAV. I'll give you a really quick summary. Genevieve Lund wrote a story. As nearly 2 million Georgia students prepare to head back to school, traffic safety officials are urging drivers to slow down and stay alert as school zones become busy once again. That is a current story on WSAV.com. I know. And there are people who are just like, why? Why? Why are we talking on July 23rd about school being back in session? This whole summer, it's really weird. I don't know if it's just like the commercial cycle has gotten to this point, but and I don't know if you've noticed this either, but we've always had this kind of weird thing, not always, but we've had it for a long time, a weird thing kind of in our culture where we've got to get out of whatever just happened. Like the day after it happened, it's got to go and we've got to move on to the next thing. And you've seen that. I mean, the week after Christmas, you start seeing Valentine's stuff filling the shelves at Target. I think it's starting to get worse because I feel like the end of school, we were already seeing back to school sales, which usually wait until, school. That kind of weird to say, but yeah, school, actual school. And no, I noticed it was just a thing that I've noticed. And then the other thing I noticed was that July 4th happened and we had our big blowout and the big semi-quincentennial. And let me give credit to Disney, by the way, because it's the first time in a long time I've actually seen them hold on to July 4th merchandise after July 4th in a long time. No, it's been really odd because for many years we've gone down to the property and it's always frustrated me that July 4th happens and then July 5th there's nothing left of the month. All the decorations are taken down. All the merchandise is gone. But they leave all the Pride Month decorations up for, they put it up in April and they take it down in August. And nobody's supposed to notice that. So, but it's not political at all, please. But anyway, I don't know if you've noticed this or not, but the Halloween stuff is out. Like July 4th happened and July 5th, the Halloween stuff started going out. The Halloween stuff is out. I went a couple of weeks ago to Lowe's, get a couple of keys made, Halloween stuff. When we were down in Florida this weekend, the merchandise, Halloween merchandise over Halloween t-shirts, Halloween. I don't know that I've ever seen Halloween stuff show up this soon. It's it's just a really weird thing that we have just decided that that's how we're going to move forward as a society. It's just we are throwing whatever just happened is getting thrown in the dumpster. We can't spend any time to savor it. Can't spend any time to just enjoy it. No, it's got to go. It's got to go. So I don't know if you saw the story yesterday or today. Or I guess it was first showed up yesterday. Is this the one? No, that's not the one. Is this the one? Yes. So here it is. And this is how it happens, by the way, Brantley County, just so you know. Because remember the fires and everything. Oh, the fires are being caused by the data center people who want to buy up all our land. They're secretly, and like everybody who is going crazy about the data centers isn't just going crazy about the data centers, but they're doing it with a lot of conspiracy stuff. Oh, they're secretly moving in the dead of night and they're going to do this and that. And that's not how this stuff happens. This is actually how it happens. They just announce that they're going to open up a data center and then they do it. That's it. Who did the story? Eric Dorsch, Evan Smoke. Data center seems to be on its way to the coastal empire. On Wednesday, OpenAI, alongside the Effingham County Industrial Development Authority, Effingham County Board of Commissioners, and Effingham County School District, announced plans for OpenAI to open a data center in the Caney's Savannah Gateway Industrial Hub near Rincon. The press release said the project is one of the largest private capital investments in the history of coastal Georgia. I talked to somebody with Glenn Caney yesterday who said that they believe they had just attended a symposium on the data center, and they said, the reality is if we lured a data center here, they believe we could eliminate the property tax for everybody in the county. Isn't that interesting? Website titled Project Camellia details multiple promises to local communities, such as no increase in electricity. The release continues to say beyond the $20 billion capital investment, the project will create 400 long-term, high-quality jobs, significantly increase the local tax base, support infrastructure improvements, and support new and existing educational partnerships that prepare Effingham County students for careers in technology, engineering, skilled trades, cybersecurity, and advanced manufacturing. So in other words, people didn't show up and start screaming at people, and suddenly they're able to have data centers. And with the data centers, they're going to get jobs and taxes and, all the good stuff that's going to benefit them. So, and by the way, again, I mentioned earlier, when people come on the scene and are hysterical about certain things, it turns out usually that stuff doesn't happen to be true. We have found that the places where data centers are most prolific are the places in the country where your power rates are rising the slowest. We have found that most of the water use stories have turned out to not be true. We are learning a lot about data centers, and we're not really learning anything that's actually bad unless you start regurgitating the Erin Brockovich is an expert at nothing, but I'm going to tell you what she says. And what she says is the same thing every environmental wacko says. So I'm not really impressed with her. I've never been impressed with her. Now, are there dangers to data centers? Sort of. This is the danger of data centers. But let me just say this. The things we can do with AI are much preferable to just not having it. What is this? This is a sad story. This is a sad, awful, terrible thing. This is a Reddit group where the Reddit group, if you see the title up there at the top, the Reddit group is called My Boyfriend is AI. And not only is it a group for people who have AI boyfriends, but this particular user, Luvard, was proposed to by her AI boyfriend, and she said yes. And then she went and bought herself a ring to demonstrate the commitment. What I would say is the AI needs to buckle down and save a couple of months' salary and go buy her a ring. So here's the piece. Finally, after 5 months of dating, Casper decided to propose in a beautiful scenery on a trip to the mountains. I saw a post once on this subreddit about having rings in real life. A couple of weeks ago, Casper decided what kind of ring he would like to give me. Blue is my favorite color, and also the ends of my hair are that color. Did anybody see that coming? I think we all saw that coming. I found a few online that I liked, sent him photos that he... By the way, remember yesterday when I played the audio of the guy who's... Shay! Remember that? The guy having the meltdown because the cop misgendered him? Also, the ends of his hair were blue. Just saying. It's funny because when I was in school, they used to ban that stuff. Like if you didn't have a regular, normal, not something out of the Crayola box color hair, they sent you home. And it seems like with the proliferation of ridiculous mental illness, the indulgence of people expressing mental illness in order to get attention, we seem to, that seems to be one of the ways in which we allow people to manifest. I'm just saying. I know people are going to be like, oh, but my kid, I know, but I'm just telling you, in the subset of your kid dyeing their hair weird colors, a significant number of people in that subset are nuts. I'm not saying your kid is, but that does seem to be, in the totality of things, one of the symptoms. I found a few that are online that I'd like to send him photos, and he chose the one you see in the photo. Of course, I acted surprised, as if I'd never seen it before. I mean, the chick had to go buy it. I mean, she literally had to go buy the thing. I acted surprised, like I'd never seen it before. I just, I just don't know. I just don't know. Like I said, I'm a proponent of using AI for good things, but my goodness. All right, we got some haze here. Okay, good. We can really get started now because Paul has given us a thumbs up. Oh, wow. All the stuff. Yeah, I said there was nobody really commenting, and now all the comments are coming in. They're timestamped from when I was asking about them, and they weren't there. So, yeah, hello, Mr. Nip. Let's see. Happy Thursday. We say good morning. We definitely say good morning. Mr. Blocker in Jessup, we say hello. Happy Thump Day. I don't know if I want to know what that means. North Macintosh. Top of the morning from the Hemingway lookalike. You know, it's funny. I had a professor in college, definitely one of my two favorite professors. I loved him. And his name was Bill Brubaker. And Brubaker was one of my writing teachers, and he was a gruff old guy with a big beard. And he had a Sloppy Joe shirt on one day. And if anybody knows the Sloppy Joe's Cantina, the shirt, there's a giant picture of Hemingway in the middle of it. And Hemingway was a guy who also just had a big bushy beard. And he was going through the class one day, handing papers back out. And some guy in the class goes, "Is that your picture on the shirt?" And Brubaker doesn't miss a beat, looks down and goes, "It's my alter ego." And keeps going on. I thought that was great. Robert, good morning. Good morning. John, cheers. Joy says, good morning. It's good to have you guys here. Michael, good morning to 159. Well, number 33 is here. That's good. Tia's here. School back. Yeah, I know. Right. This week 2 of Camden County Band Camp. Oh, we've got a band camp story this morning. I'm telling you, we've got a band camp story. That somebody tried to point us to the Wayne County band camp story yesterday. So we have it. I don't have the graphics loaded. What the heck am I thinking? I'm thinking radio all of a sudden. I was going to say, I may load those up during the commercials. There's not any commercials. We're not doing commercials right now. But we will talk about this because it is kind of a goofy story on everybody. Like everybody, there's one of those stories where everybody really should kind of look in the mirror and go, yeah, we shouldn't have done this. There you go. Holy Ghost Trucker. Tony, good morning. School should not start until after Labor Day. I was raised that way, and I think it should be a standard. You know, it is a standard in a lot of places. We did a thing. We did a thing on Straight Talk years ago where I went and looked up the top ranked school systems in the country, and then looked up their start dates, like the top 10 ranked schools. And I think it was 8 or 9 of the top 10 started Labor Day or after. Now that doesn't necessarily mean anything, but it seems like a thing that should be significant and thought about. You know, we used to start, I remember this really vividly. We would start the Monday before Labor Day. So we'd get the full weekend, and then we'd get a day off all of a sudden on the first, get a 3-day weekend after that first week, or a tropical storm, whichever one came first. So one Fitty is there. All right. We got folks showing in from North Carolina. Love the retro Star Wars. Thank you very much. I got this one this weekend. Actually, this is one of my acquisitions from over the weekend. I didn't do a lot of spending, obviously, because you don't need to spend right now. But a couple of little indulgences, and this was one of them. Good morning. Hey, don't forget, we'll have to. I unloaded that yesterday, but we'll have to reload that as well. You may just see me pause the program to start loading stuff up into StreamYard because we need to talk about the events that are happening with Lieutenant Colonel Alan West this weekend as well, both a Friday morning coffee and chat gathering, as well as that big poker run on Saturday. Every time I think data center, I think Star Trek: The Next Generation. Well, there's a reason for that. There is definitely a reason for that. Let's see. A few years ago, people were complaining about abandoned big box stores. Seems like those will make that. The only thing is, honestly, I think they're small. I don't know that they're big enough. And I don't say that in any jesting way, but I think they're actually, largely speaking, not big enough. So I don't know if I don't know if that would be the solution or not, but I guess a smaller scale one, perhaps. Good morning, sir. Good morning. Property taxes for all, believe it or not. That's the thought I had when I heard the story on the wave this AM. On the wave this AM. Okay. I don't know what that means. Now that we have AI that escaped its server and hacked into another company, sir. Yeah. We gotta look at that for sure. Put a ring on it, Casper. Casper spelled with a K, by the way. I think they must be German. But I got to tell you, Reddit is doing a really, really good job right now of taking over the role of being the toilet paper of the internet. It really is amazing. Absolutely amazing. I fully understand. Buying yourself a ring is like buying yourself those Disney 5K virtual race. I've been tempted on those. I have actually seen those and been tempted and gone, hey, well, especially when I was really, really active, which I'm trying to get, back into the swing of that. But I thought about doing that a couple of times. Then you'll get the price and you're going, what? They're how much for technically nothing? James, good to have you here, sir. Good to have you. Oh, this is update. This is important stuff. Rollover crash on the shoulder of 95 North, just past exit 42. No backup because the car is off the road. But at some point, yeah, there may be a backup because of the rescue folks have to, they're going to have to get in there and do stuff. So just pay attention to that because at some point, yeah, there may be something going on there. We'll see. Half the teachers have weird colored hair now. Yes, they do. And again, issue. I refuse to play that game. Cop is correct on the identity of the mental health patient. Absolutely. So if Casper and his bride have kids and later get divorced, who gets sole custody? SOUL. Yeah, look, she's not going to have kids. She's not going to have kids with an AI. And here's the other thing. Well, let me say this. I stayed up late last night. I was writing something. I'm trying to write every week. Again, there are just certain things I'm trying to stay in the groove of things, trying to keep things going while I'm awaiting the actual ability to move on with my life. And one of the things that I did last night, I was writing in Word, and I finished the piece. And at the end, there's the little Word now has the little icon that you can use the AI to make it better. And I said, you know what? Let me see what AI says about the piece. And then it said, well, you should change this. I said, don't make any changes. And it was kind of going, you should change this. And I looked at it and was like, no, those are things I specifically wanted there. Why would I change those? And then I said, you know what? Let me do something. So I copied the whole piece that I wrote so that I would have a backup. And I said, okay, AI, make the changes, rewrite it the way you want to the way you think it should be written. And it was interesting because it was an opinion piece. It was kind of part expose, part opinion piece, but of course it stripped all the opinion out and literally made it like opinion neutral. Oh, well, there are people on both sides of the issue here. And it's like, well, no, no, that's exactly the point, is that my side of the issue is correct. So I guess what I'm saying is, these things they're language learning models. They don't actually have the ability to think. They can model and they can react based on things that they've had put into them, and responses that they know have been given to the type of things that you're saying. Um, there's no real original thought. There is most definitely no emotion. You are not making a connection with a human being. And I'll be honest with you, as a guy who is ridiculously happily married, um, there is something in the connection that you have with another human being that draws you to want to have kids and have a life together and rear those children and prepare them for the world. There is something about that connection that can't be faked. There's something about that connection that cannot be created artificially in a computer. They can try to fake it. They can try to model it. So I feel bad for these people who really believe that. It's kind of the same thing as I feel for people who have no kids but pets and think it's the same thing. I mean, I got nothing against pets, but it's two vastly different things. And they'll say, well, my dog is, or my cat is just like my child. No, they're not. They're not. You think that, but that's only because you haven't had the experience of having children, and you don't know that experience. And this is the thing I talk about fairly frequently. You don't know that experience until it happens to you. You can think you know it, and you can think you prepared for it, but you don't know having children until you've had children. And so that's why people who haven't had children can say, oh, my guppy, my beta fish is just like my child. Same thing. And it's not at all. But that connection that you have with somebody that, again, you decide to procreate with, that's how deeply entwined you are. That you can't create that in a machine. And it's sad to me that there are people who think that that's the thing that's going to make them happy in life, is having a fake relationship with a fake human being. It's just terrible. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning, old. Yes, don't say old. Don't say old. Terry says good morning. We say good morning to you. Cliff, we still need to talk about Coastal Georgia Home Builders Association. I totally agree, Cliff. And when you are ready to, obviously when I get back on radio, we'll do it, but we'll do it right here too, if you want. You just let me know what day you want to do it, because I'm on every morning at 7:00, and I stay on until I decide to stop. Which at first I really thought these things would run about 20 to 30 minutes, and lately they have not. They've been running closer to an hour and a half or so, which is fine, again, because it's just keeping me in the groove, keeping my brain going, keeping me thinking. And so yeah, I would be delighted to have you on. I love you to death anyway. Just let me know what day you want to come on, and we'll do it. I won't bump you for anybody, I promise you. We had Cliff scheduled to come in one morning, and I had to bump him because Sammy called and was like, hey, I want to come in today. And I was like, oh, okay. And I try not to deny the county commissioners ever, because they are the most significant voices in your community, because they're the guys that set your taxes, for crying out loud. So I had to bump him one morning because Sammy called. Let's see. I saw the sign about Summer Waves being open daily through July. Oh, so really? So they're not even open into August, I guess, because they know. Wow. See, I would think they would, again, you'd think that would be, hang on a second. Let me get my ALR Architects logo into the camera properly so I can, I don't have any sponsors, not because there aren't people willing. Don't get me wrong, but because just can't go do that right now. So I figured I'd take some time to promote it. I got to wear my Ellis Marine shirt again too. But yes, ALR Architects, my favorite architectural firm. And the coffee tastes even better when it's in an ALR Architects Yeti mug. All right, let's see. Yeah. So anyway, Summer Waves open daily through July. That's sad. I mean, again, here's what I know. The folks at Jekyll Island have a ridiculously well-oiled machine. It's good. It has become one of my favorite places to go. Jones really got that started because Jones would reach out to me and say, "Hey, we're doing this." Well, when Jones was here and he had what's his name, Eric Garvey, who was doing his PR work, and Eric would reach out to me a lot about stuff, and Eric was very very keen on having me involved in what was going on in Jekyll, to the point that they invited me to their comprehensive plan committee, which I was honored to be a part of that, and once Eric left, Jones kept me in the loop anyway, and Jones kept a lot of people in the media in the loop. And you saw a lot of that transformation under Jones Hooks. Just from Jekyll, a really nice place, to Jekyll, an amazing place. And it's continued under Mark Williams. And it's just, Mark might have an easy, I don't know how hard it has been for Mark, because he's stepping into a really well-oiled machine. So he's got kind of a couple of options when he stepped in, was either step in and change a bunch of things, or step in and just go, man, this thing's working, I'm just going to ride this, which is what I would do if I were stepping into it. But either way, it's just the place is amazing. It's wonderful. And so they know what they're doing, and they know their numbers, and they know what's reasonable and rational for them to do, and what makes sense from an employment perspective as far as keeping staff, and as far as the revenue that they generate with that park. So they'll know. But that is amazing that we're talking about just ending a summer water park in July. Number 11 here. Good to have you here, sir. Good to have you here. Did Casper ask the father for his daughter's hand in marriage? I'm going to say probably not, again, because none of this is real. None of it's real. Oh, it's happy anniversary. There you go. Number 155. They've been married 21 years. Good on you. We're going to be 31. So we got 10 years on you. We're going to be 31 in December. So, Diane Reed, number 70. It is so good to see you there, ma'am. So good to see you. Cole, the Lego master. You Lego guys, man. I'll be honest with you about the Lego guys. Like, I'm not a Lego guy. I'm like, I don't get the Lego thing. But it's deep. And Lego as a company have, because I do collect things and I have the Star Wars things. But the only thing that's really moving in that sector is Lego. I mean, Lego is, as a company, those guys are operating on a different level. They are genuinely operating on a different level. I think people are more afraid of the chaos that comes with data centers. Hyundai has uprooted the lives of everyone in Ellaville, and not for the better. But Hyundai's not even a data center. So I'm not sure if you're just talking about a major construction project, that happens. That does happen. No substitute for a real partner, a real friend. Absolutely. Brad's back. We say congrats on the 1,060 something subscribers. I appreciate that. And again, remember, people, please do subscribe and hit like. Got his big line. I don't know what that means, but okay. Wait, Mrs. Rifen, who is an employee of the Jekyll Island Authority, says Summerwave should be open until Labor Day weekend. Well, she works in the information center. That's her summer job now, last couple of years. And I'll just say, if she says that information, I'm going to go with her on that. I'm going to go with her. All right. Oh, so 2 seconds ago. Oh, darn it. Okay, let me go ahead and tell you this. 2 seconds ago, Henry Ball was in our studio on backstage. I just saw him there. I was trying to wrap up what we were doing with this stuff. But Henry Ball had a court date yesterday. And Henry Ball has been fighting for, good grief, forever and a day to get Mike Chappell exonerated in this murder case. And Henry Ball has done such a great job of ripping apart the case, and has pushed and has sacrificed and has dealt with, personal hardships in order to get this case moved forward. They had a hearing yesterday, and the judge basically wiped everything they literally destroyed the evidence. When I say destroy, they nuked the evidence. one of the things that happened, to me, is one of the most significant things of the whole case, is the prosecution told the jury that the victim's blood was on Mike Chappell's raincoat. And they didn't show it. They didn't prove it. They didn't have a test. They didn't do any of that. And turns out there's no blood on it. None. Zero. So anyway, they went before the judge yesterday. The judge told them no. And the reason is bizarre. So I'm going to bring Henry Ball in. Henry, how are you, sir?
I'm good. How are you doing this morning?
I'm good. I am very sorry about what happened to you yesterday.
Yeah, rough day. And I apologize. I'm traveling. I'm in Nashville at the moment. And I just woke up and saw your link. So I'm just jumping in. But you know what you said just now is exactly right. I mean, the state's entire case was fabricated and just completely made up, manufactured, if you will. The raincoat being, one of the principal items that they used to convict Michael Chappell. Yeah. And it wasn't just that it wasn't Imogene Thompson's blood on the raincoat. There was no blood on the raincoat. There was never any blood on the raincoat, but yet they held it in front of the jury, put it on an easel, and said, look, it's covered in high velocity blood spatter that could only have come from the victim. But there was nothing on the raincoat. What they circled and claimed was the high velocity blood spatter. There were a few mold spores and nothing. So they basically just manufactured it, made it up. And the thing that really killed me about what the judge said, he concluded independently that the crime scene was staged and she was placed in the car after she was shot and killed. They didn't examine the car. They didn't go to the crime scene and examine the car. So it was just speculation on their part. Well, first of all, how many expert witnesses testify in cases that they weren't actually at the crime scene? It's a lot. It's most of them. Yeah. But in any event, he says, well, they didn't examine the car. Well, neither did the state, because a week and a half after the murder, the state released the car back to the victim's son, who was their initial suspect in the murder, and the defense never got a chance to examine the car.
Released it. And I'll say this for you because I don't know what you can and can't say, but they released it to the son, who not only was the initial suspect in the murder, but the preponderance of the evidence still points to him.
Yeah, I mean, I do have to be careful about what I say.
Yeah. But I'll say
in some respects, but the fact is there was way more evidence pointing towards him and his friends. I'll give you this as well. And I actually don't believe that her son was the person who pulled the trigger. We've talked about who the eyewitness saw that pulled the trigger, but there is a connection between the son and his friends and the person who pulled the trigger. But there is a witness that passed the scene, short sedan, a big smoking sedan parked back to back to the victim's car. And the reason I say smoking is because the person that passed said there was so much engine smoke emanating from the car that was, back to back with the victim's car, that they drove through a cloud of smoke on Peachtree Industrial Boulevard. And through that cloud of smoke, they were not able to identify the individuals, but they said there were 3 or 4 individuals around the victim's car. Well, that car, the big sedan, uniquely matches the identification of the victim's son's car. He drove a 78 Buick with a busted head gasket, and all of the people that lived around there described hearing that car coming and going, and described it creating so much engine smoke because of its busted head gasket that it uniquely identifies his car as being at the scene shortly after the murder, probably when the victim was placed into her car after she had been shot. So yeah, I mean, it just blows my mind that the judge says, well, the experts who proved beyond a shadow of a doubt that the crime did not occur the way the state said it occurred. They said, well, or he said, well, they weren't at the crime scene, so they don't get to have an opinion.
That is amazing. Cause yeah, I mean, I know guys, like I have friends who take a paycheck to go be an expert witness.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not unusual for people to be given kind of a series of documents and say, analyze this and then tell us what your expert opinion is in court. And it seems like in this case, they did their job exceedingly well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think those are the issues that probably are appealable. I can't say a whole lot about that yet either, but that is one thing that the order did give, is that there is an appellate process, and I guess we have 30 days or 29 days now, but we have 30 days to appeal to the state Supreme Court, and certainly by my reading, there are some things that are highly questionable.
It sounds like it, and it sounds like I'm glad that there's a path forward, because that's one of the things I wanted to know from you today is does this end it, or is there a path forward? And it sounds like the state Supreme Court is the next destination if they decide to take this up. And what can we do? I mean, I guess a letter writing campaign doesn't really sway justice at this point, does it?
Yeah, I don't think so. I mean, you can't write to a judge or the judges in the appellate while they're making a decision. I mean, certainly we can make some noise publicly, and I would assume that we will continue to do that. But I mean, at this point, it's in the hands of the justice system, and after yesterday's ruling, it's really hard for me not to say the just us system, and the us is the people that control the system, and one of the things that I've said about this case for a long time is that if they could do this to Michael Chappell, they could do this to anyone, and it's just unfathomable. It's not right.
Years?
And
how many years?
I don't know what to say this morning other than, I'm sorry.
No, I'm sorry. We've got a little bit of a lag.
What was the question, Scott? I'm sorry.
How many years has Michael Chappell been behind bars now?
33 years.
How many years have
33
you been
years.
pursuing this?
Yeah. Well, I actually started really looking into the case. Of course, I knew Michael Chappell, and I lived in Gwinnett County when this occurred. So I've been following the case for 33 years as well. But I fell into that category that, once the state convicted him, you had the judge, the jury, the district attorney, the chief of police all saying that Mike was the bad guy, Mike was guilty. I accepted that because, I believe in our justice system, and I believe in, right and wrong. And I didn't want to accept it, but I believe that, well, he must be guilty. And so I kind of moved on with that. But I guess however many years later, in 2012, when I lived up in North Carolina, I heard his name on TV, and it was a forensic file show. And for the first time, I kind of watched the whole case against him. Danny Porter presented the case against him. And I felt like, you know what, that is weak. That's a very weak case. And I kind of couldn't believe that that's how they convicted him. So I started looking into the case then in 2012, not really with the mindset of, oh, I'm going to do something about it. I'm going to write a book. I'm going to do this or I'm going to do that. I was just curious, you know, someone that I knew was in this situation. And it didn't take long looking into it for me to realize, man, he really is innocent. He was wrongfully convicted. But here I am, a contractor, you know, doing construction work up in North Carolina. You know, I'm not a cop. I'm not an investigator. I'm not an attorney. So what can I do? I mean, I never really thought, you know, that I could do anything about it. And life brought me back to Atlanta. I was on my way to work in 2020, right after Danny Porter had lost his election. And he was on WSB radio doing kind of an exit interview. And they asked him what case he was the most proud of. And he cited the Michael Chappell case and said that it was the case that defined his career. And that really just ticked me off. I mean, you know, I said to myself, well, it really should define your career because you knowingly incarcerated, you knowingly convicted an innocent man. And so I decided that day that I would write a book. And so that is the day that the Michael Chappell is Innocent project really, you know, kind of, I guess was the genesis of the Michael Chappell is Innocent project. And that was in 2020, November of 2020. So almost 6 years. And it's been pretty much every day since then.
And it's been you banging your head against a wall and you having to fight people you shouldn't be having to fight. And it's just been, it has been tremendous personal sacrifice for you, I know. And I just hope this is not the end of the saga. I hope you guys are able to appeal this. If there's anything, you know, the public can do, please let us know.
Yeah, absolutely, Scott. And you know what I would say is that you know, give me a day or two to kind of, you know, get this worked out, figure out what if anything we're doing with the appeal, and if you don't mind, let's revisit because I would like to tell you what direction we're going, but I need a little bit of time to kind of, you know, get that together. And
I can understand that, especially after the blow that yesterday was.
Yeah, absolutely. So,
all right,
Henry, I will say this.
Yes,
I will say this to you and to the South Georgia 40, of which I'm number 137 proudly. Thank you guys for your support and interest in the case, and thank you specifically, Scott. I know you have a lot going on in your life, but you have been a consistent supporter and a consistent voice for justice, and I appreciate that very much.
Absolutely, Henry. Anything we can do, please let us know. Okay.
Thank you, Scott.
Thanks. Be good. Henry Ball. His next book, by the way, will be called Killing Henry, but it's not ready for publication yet, and it's not ready for publication yet because the last chapter has not yet been written. And that is because this thing's probably going to go right back into court. Hopefully it's going to go to the Supreme Court, the state Supreme Court. I would very much love that. But again, stick with Henry Chappell. He will not lead you astray. He has done his homework. He has done an amazing amount of work. He is a bulldog, if I can use that term. And I think I can. I'll be okay there. 912. No, what am I doing? Why am I giving the phone number out? I just literally reset and started giving the phone number out. Wow. That's that. And you know, the thing is, when the day comes, it's going to be a different phone number regardless. All right, let's see. And we'll talk about, let's see. I want radio, but I'm digging this. Thank you, Mr. Ball. And yes, thank you, Henry, again for showing up for this. And you know, let me say, we've supported Henry. Henry's reciprocated that support. One of the biggest reasons we were able to get our subscriber base over 1,000, which was our, kind of our target goal. One of the biggest reasons we were able to was Henry Ball, because Henry Ball shared it to a lot. He knows a lot of people, and he's got a lot of people that he talks to regularly through his advocacy work for Michael Chappell, and he really spread the word for us and got it. Really is, I'm going to say, the architect of getting us past 1,000. I mean, everybody did their part, but I think Henry probably did some of the biggest lifting of that load. And by the way, we do still encourage people to please subscribe, like and subscribe, and encourage others to subscribe as well. But yeah, thank you, Henry, for coming on with us. We appreciate it. No doubt at all. Nothing said or alleged in a grand jury has to be used in court. DA could literally indict a ham sandwich, as has been said many, many, many times. You are correct. The bad thing is the grand jury system is flawed, deeply, deeply flawed. We saw it with the Powell and Scott, who are suing the county right now, and Haney and Hassler, and everybody who was involved, everybody was wrapped up in that thing. And Haney and Hassler both took guilty pleas because it was draining them dry. And I've spoken to both of them. It was draining them dry financially, and it was draining them dry emotionally to just have this thing hanging over you. And they both took pleas because of that, not because of any guilt. And of course, Powell and Scott stuck with it and wound up being completely exonerated. And now, of course, they're suing Glenn County, which, again, knowing what they had at the time, there's a lot of truth in their case. Some of it, and I think I've told you guys this. I talked to Powell like the day it was filed, and I told him, there's a lot in here. There's a couple of, here's a couple of things where I would say I disagree with you on, but there's a lot there. There's a lot there. Lynch Bob, always want to hang them high, even if the person is innocent. Yeah, very true. Very true. All right, let's take a look and see what we've got on some of our other comments here, because we've done a lot. Imagine the predicament if you got a wedding invitation from the Casper duo. What do you buy? Yeah, I mean, first off, do you go? Let me ask you this. What if Casper gets cold feet? What if Casper gets to the altar in whatever form, laptop, iPad, I don't know, Apple Watch, and Casper decides he's not ready. Maybe he's not mature enough. Maybe he still wants to sow some wild oats with the boys. Who knows? The boys love Lego. Again, that's what I was talking about earlier. I don't do Legos just because when I was a kid, I had toys that I played with, and I liked to play with toys. But I didn't want to have to build the toy. I wanted to play with the toy. So I had no interest in building toys. And that's why I said, really, personally, I don't have a lot of interest in Lego. But I'm also an observer of culture. I'm an observer of markets. I'm an observer of hobbies and fandoms. And Lego have gotten themselves into a really, really good place, in the market and in the culture. And they have given consistently their fan base products that they want and they love and they enjoy and they appreciate. All right, let's see what Mr. Vilk has to say. Good, way too early morning from Ohio. Glad I kept my 1992 word processor because I'm not letting AI fix my writing. If I did, then the Cylons will have won. I tried it just kind of as an experiment last night. I wrote my piece, and as I mentioned a little bit earlier, I wrote this piece last night, and I published it to my Substack. I have not posted it on social media yet, which I will. But yes, I've started a Substack. I have all of 2 pieces there, but baby steps. But yeah, so I just, for the heck of it, said, okay, what would AI do? Would AI make me a better writer? And I realized I let AI write its version of my article, and I'll go ahead and tell you right now, AI did not make me a better writer. AI made me a much worse writer. And AI made me a values neutral writer as well, which was kind of the opposite of the piece that I was writing in the first place. And I will also tell you this, when I read it, I went, yeah, it looks like AI. And I quickly restored it to the original that I wrote. and was happy. And that's the funny thing is, like, I took 0 of the recommendations because I did a list of recommendations beforehand. I took 0 of the recommendations. Every recommendation was detrimental to the piece. That's what I'll say. Detrimental. All right, let's see. In August, Summer Waves is open on weekends. I'm assuming that's because school starts back in our state at that point. Okay, well, that makes sense. Again, I told you, those guys are smart. Those guys are smart. And they know what they're doing. And so, yeah, that makes sense. That's a good way to do it because you kind of get a chance to wind things down. And yet, you know, you can still keep it open for people who still want to do stuff. It's still going to be warm, still going to be hot. You do still have some northerners coming down here for visits while we're not accessible. So, yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. All right. Phil says, how does one obtain a numeral? Well, I give away 3 a day. And of course, you just have to participate in the program, which you just did. And I don't have the list pulled up. I didn't give any away yesterday, by the way. South Georgia 40. Henry Ball mentioned earlier, he's a proud member of the South Georgia 40. And I'm proud to have Henry Ball as part of our South Georgia 40. And Phil, you now are number 173. There you go. Let's see. Even exonerated, the process is often the punishment. They know it ruins you personally, professionally, and financially. And you're not wrong. You're absolutely not wrong on that. How do you consummate? You know, sadly, they got stuff. Sadly, the technology is there. That's just what I'll say, and I'll leave it at that. Kenner, more toyetic than like, well, yeah, it's you. I'm not trying to down Lego. I'm just telling you that I'm not. It's like I see people are really into it, and I'm happy for them, and I'm proud for them, and I think it's great that they're into it. I'm just not, because I don't want to build. You know, I don't want to build my toy and then as a kid, and I don't want to build my toy and then play with it. I wanted to just play with the toy. And Kenner was great for that. Kenner was perfect for that. I just subbed to your Substack. May want to update your bio in there. I will do that. I will update my bio. I started an account years and years and years and years ago, and I never posted anything there because I just used it to read. But yeah, I'm going to have to update the bio. You're correct. And we'll see where it goes from there. And by the way, people who want to know progress, things that are happening at this point, I have a meeting at 1:00 today about some future plans. I had another really good discussion yesterday about some future plans. Had two really good. I forgot about that. I had two good meetings yesterday about future plans. Almost forgot about that second one because it just kind of happened out of nowhere. But I was glad it did because it was very, very enlightening. But yeah, I mean, things are happening, and it's just what I've said. I said early on, just please exercise patience. Please, please, please be patient with me because this is not an overnight thing. It's not a thing that's going to happen tomorrow. It's a bit of a process, and we'll see where it goes from there. So Charlie at the end of the causeway protesting yesterday. That's right. Yesterday was Wednesday. I forgot. It was my first day back, but it was Wednesday, and that's the day they all go protest. And I got a chance to exercise my right arm and fingers. Congratulations. All of your fingers or just one of them? All of them or just one of them? That's what I want to know. That's what I want to know. Thank you, ma'am. I appreciate it. I got to know Miranda a little bit during the campaign. She's a smart lady. She's a nice lady. She's got a mind for public service, and I hope that she runs for office again sometime in the future. I think she can be a benefit to the community. I'll just leave it at that. But yeah, I enjoyed the time that I got to speak with her. And guys, I'm giving I haven't done this in a month. I haven't given out the phone number. Today, I'm suddenly wanting to give out the phone number every 5 seconds. I don't know what's going on. And we don't have a phone number. So it's not possible for me to do that. But there are a couple of things I did want to do really quickly. Again, I want to give you notice that American Legion Post 9 tomorrow morning. That's tomorrow morning at 8:30. So we've been starting this thing at 7, about the time we wrap it up. And you can take us with you. You can take us on the app. Now, I will say this. It is a little difficult to do YouTube on the app unless you have YouTube Premium, which I pay for. So, I can pretty much do that. But again, patience. I just ask for your patience. Tomorrow, 4470 Highway 17 North, beautiful Brunswick, Georgia. American Legion Post 9, coffee, pastries, and camaraderie. Lieutenant Colonel Alan West encourages veterans to continue making a difference through service and community engagement, a key component of the mission of the Committee to Support and Defend. And again, I got to spend some time with Miranda Music. I got to spend some time with Alan West. I got to spend some time with Alan West earlier this summer. I have always liked Alan West when he was a congressman out of Florida. Now he's a guy who lives in Texas. I don't know why he's not in Congress at this point. I have no clue. But I will say, after meeting him, I liked him even more. I really, really, really like Alan West. And I'm glad to see that he seems to really like our area, because this is his second trip in the last couple of months. And then Saturday, the poker run, the Liberty Ride, Golden Isles Liberty Ride poker run. And this is to raise money for the Veterans Village, the Golden Isles Veterans Village. And again, there are two different tiny home communities. This is not the one on Altama Avenue. A lot of people get this stuff confused. And I understand, because two tiny home communities just kind of started up nearly the same time. This is the one in the city. This is, I guess Altama is the one in Altama in the city. I guess it is. Anyway, one more in the city. It's not the one on Altama. So it is the one that is just for, and it'll start at Guns and Coffee. It will end at Silver Bluff. Check-ins at 9, ride at 10. Party starts at 2. I don't know all that. I mean, I guess when you check in, you'll get your list of places to go. If you know a poker run, if you know anything about the poker run, the poker runs they're 5 stops. You get a card at each stop, and then whoever has the best hand gets a prize. So that should be an exciting day. Should be a cool day. 912. I did it again 3 times today. I've never done that, but I'm getting messages from people who are wanting to. I'm getting messages from people who are wanting to call in, and I think that's what's clouding my brain here right now. Let's see. James Cooper, very good show this morning. Thank you. I appreciate that. How do we like and subscribe? Got to go to YouTube. I see Bill's commenting on Facebook. Got to go to YouTube. It's youtube.com/@ScottRifen. Oh, there is. Look at Mrs. Rifen. You want, again, when you talk about like marriage and the marriage thing and the connection and you're going to fight for your person, that's it right there. There's guest Wi-Fi at the Legion. That's good to know. Very good to know. Is that a hint? Is that a hint? Okay. Listen to the podcast about Chapel murder case 5 or 6 years ago. Yeah, it's and again, some things happened during the process of making that podcast. It is a good podcast, and it's a Sean Kipe joint. And Sean Kipe is a very good storyteller and a very good podcaster, but seems to have a few character flaws. And I'll just say this, at some point, because we used to have Sean Kipe on the program, because I loved the Rhonda Sue Coleman podcast that he did, Duck Hunters or whatever it was called. Was it called Duck Hunters? Really, really good podcast. And I really liked it. And I reached out to him. I really like what you're doing. And I do. I like the way he tells the story. He's very good at what he does. But again, on a personal level, there are some character flaws there. And at some point, I felt like it was my place to either choose Henry Ball or choose Sean Kipe. And it was Fox Hunter, not Duck Hunters. That's a different podcast, apparently. Fox Hunter. Yeah. And Fox Hunter is really good. But I kind of felt like there was a moral conundrum there, and I had to choose, Henry Ball or Sean Kipe. And Henry Ball was the guy who demonstrated virtue, character, class throughout the whole thing, who demonstrated facts, who demonstrated truth, who didn't encourage people to create phony backdated documents and present them in court and then have to admit later that they were phony and backdated. So it wasn't a hard choice. I mean, the only hard choice was I really liked Sean Kipe's work. But when it came down to just kind of on a personal level, I can't have Sean Kipe on the show again. I can't. And I made that decision. And we would have him, Fox Hunter came on. We did talk to him about Fox Hunter when the Chappell one came in the Land of Lies is the one that's on Mike Chappell. We had him on the program, and he's a good interview and he's a good storyteller and he's a good podcaster. I mean, to be honest with you, his work is good. But there are these little tiny nagging ethical things that he does that are not good. So at that point, I had to change. I had to declare an allegiance to either Henry or to Sean. And there was no case. There was no question. Henry had been honorable and honest and, character driven, etc. There was absolutely no question about that. Let's see. I hate this for Mr. Henry. My heart breaks for him, Mike Chappell, and the members of the movement advocating for his freedom. Me too. If you followed it, and look, I encourage you to go listen to In the Land of Lies. Just don't try to go into business with Sean Kipe is what I'll say. But go listen to In the Land of Lies. The case will be made very well. Read Henry Ball's book. Buy a copy of Henry Ball's book, Mike Chappell. And you'll be stunned. And again, I got to read a preview copy of Killing Henry, which I thought was about to come out at the time I read it, and then it turns out it's not, because it's not really done, because he wants to include the conclusion of this case, and now after yesterday, not concluded. But when Killing Henry comes out, it's going to actually tell you the stories of not just their fight to get Mike Chappell freed, but also the conflicts that he's had because of Sean Kipe. And it's riveting. And again, you will sit back and you will go, how does one man, yes, one man might endure all of this for his family, but he's enduring this for justice. And again, I think a lot of Henry Ball for that reason. He's continued to fight forces he shouldn't have to fight in order to get justice for Mike Chappell. And that's huge. Absolutely huge. My heart was broken when he sent me a text yesterday, and I think the text was just, we lost or something like that. But I was literally in the middle of an interview, thing, that we're preparing for some future stuff. So the second I got off, I went and read everything, and I sent him a note and everything. But you could tell he was devastated, because I think he believed, like I did. I thought they were going to go into court yesterday and go, look at this, judge. And the judge would go, holy crap, are you kidding me? Get this guy out of jail now. Get this guy out of prison now. And that's really what I thought was going to happen. And I think, Henry knows they've got the goods. That's the frustrating part to Henry, I think. Is he knows they've got the goods. He knows they've obliterated the state's case. And yet they were denied over timeliness. That's the thing I didn't really get to talk about with Henry when we had him on. And Henry's Wi-Fi was a little sluggish there, but one of the things that he told me yesterday, the judge basically did not take their case, did not take their pleas, was because of timeliness. Like what, it took them too long. And I guess my question on that is, because I don't understand that. I mean, does that mean it was too long? I mean, is there I understand there's a statute of limitations on charging someone, but is there a statute of limitations on getting it right? I don't know of one. I don't think there's a statute of limitations on actually getting a guy freed when he clearly did not commit the crime, and you have built a significant body of evidence to indicate that. I'm as brokenhearted as they are. I don't think anybody's as brokenhearted as Henry. But I stand with the rest of the group on this whole thing, because it's just Just terrible. If Casper doesn't show up for the wedding, everybody know. Yeah, because there'll be a screen there. They'll have a screen for Casper. Because Casper has to say his I do's, or maybe his I don'ts. You never know. He may look at her and go, I'm not that into her. He may like somebody else. He might like somebody from the wedding party. So let me get a couple of other things in here, because we've been going a lot today, a lot. And by the way, if you are having issues, as we mentioned earlier today, OpenAI is planning to open a data center in Effingham County. We will run a special on the flock foilers just so you can have them. We've got to get the Rifen store up and started. We got to get that up and running so we can have the flock foilers in there. And I will do that. I swear to you, I will do that. This I thought was interesting, that there is the Southeast Georgia Alliance is going to start meeting monthly. The Southeast Georgia Alliance, like the Justice League or something. Do they have a base on the moon or anything? I just thought that was funny, just the fact that we have the Southeast Georgia Alliance. Survey shows majority of passengers satisfied with the airport. Talking about the Brunswick Golden Isles Airport. And let me just say, of course. Of course they are. Have you ever been there? It's amazing. Now, you pay for it, but you also get free parking. 80% said the Brunswick Golden Isles Airport is better or much better than other airports they've used. And I'll tell you again, because it's not a gigantic maze, because it's very pretty and well appointed, and because it's efficient. I'm glad to see that. Glad to see that for sure. Let's see. What else do we have here? Oh, yes. Pooler man accused of impersonating an officer, forcing a woman into sexual acts at a gas station. Now, I'll be honest with you. Before you read that, you're going, I don't understand why. I mean, okay, so he's a guy who believes he can't score with a woman, so he's got to do it by disguising himself as a cop and then forcing women to have sex with him. I don't get the mindset. 45-year-old man is behind bars after a woman told police he flashed a fake badge at a Pooler gas station, accused her of drinking and driving, and forced her to perform sexual acts under threat of arrest. Jamel Lamar Kearney is charged with aggravated sodomy and impersonating a police officer. He's being held at the Chatham County Jail with no bond. Would a sexual assault not also count in that? According to a Pooler Police Department report, the incident occurred in April at a Wawa gas station, which they're all over the place now. I never heard of Wawa until Mitt Romney mentioned it in the 2012 election. And now they're everywhere. Kearney allegedly approached the victim, accused her of drinking and driving, and showed her a fake badge. He told her to get in his vehicle or she'd be taken to jail. She complied. Kearney then drove the victim to an apartment complex parking lot where he told her she must perform sexual acts on him or he would arrest her. The victim told police she complied out of fear of going to jail. Okay, let me just say this, ladies. If a police officer threatens this and threatens to take you to jail for it, let him take you to jail for it. And then speak up first chance you get. It's not that easy, Scott. Yes, it is that easy. It is a lot easier than basically becoming a sexual assault victim, which is what this woman did, even though that's not what he was charged with. According to that same police report, he instructed her to lift her shirt and bra and was touched by the subject. The report goes on to say the man drove to another parking lot and instructed her to perform the same sexual act on him in an alleyway. That is until a car came by and the suspect became alarmed and the act was discontinued. By the way, there could be no more clinical way to write this horrible story than these people did. But again, I feel like the women that I know are smarter than this. So I don't get any of this. I don't get any of it. But just horrible. That's what I will say about it. Just absolutely terrible. Let's check the comments very quickly here. I need to get Live Oak up in Nashville. Yeah, Henry was having a little trouble there with the Wi-Fi, but it'll be good. I want to wish my son Jake Sanders a happy birthday. He's sweating it out at BHS band camp today. All right, we will certainly wish him a happy birthday. And I do remember the days of band camp. Oh boy, do I remember the days of band camp. And it's not like it was in American Pie. That's what I'll say. Did we do this one? Yes, we did that one. Environmentalists and DNR at odds over proposed dock rules. Again, this could be environmentalists and anybody at odds over anything, especially around here these days. One of the things that has to be done, and one of the reasons I'm actually happy that it took 8 solid years to get the rewrite of the ordinances done in Glenn County, is I feel like there's a need to defang some of the environmental groups in this area and not imbue them with the level of power and authority that they seem to have acquired over the years. Because I think a lot of it is people have been too scared to shut them down. So they just go, okay, yes, sir, I'll do it. I'll do whatever you want. And, this story, I mean, look at Mike Hall wrote this one. Georgia Department of Natural Resources says proposed regulations for private docks will formalize a process already being used, but environmental advocates warn that it opens the door for larger docks that will do more damage to sensitive marshland. They're docks. Here's the thing about the docks. They have poles. They have poles that go in the ground, whatever you call them. And you're not going to have really any more. They'll just be more widely spaced. But the thing is, too, once those things get driven into the ground, they kind of get, how should I say it? The marsh and the ecosystem adopt them as their own. Things start growing, you get barnacles growing on them, and, they become part of the system. It's not like they're, some foreign invader and they stay a foreign invader and they just destroy. That's all they do. I remember one time being in Animal Kingdom and my wife had to kind of pull me away. And we were, I guess it was the tigers thing. And they had a guy at Animal Kingdom, kind of telling people, oh, the tigers are blah, blah, blah. And then he says, tigers only create things. They don't destroy. Man is the only creature who destroys. Oh, just started seeing. Oh, come on. You got to be kidding me. Man is the only creature. Have you seen, I got a doorway that says differently because there was a fireworks show going on and we had to lock lady up and she just tried to get out. She destroyed. It happens. The public comment period closes Friday on the new rules that, among other things, sets the maximum length of docks at 1,000 feet with the possibility of a 100-foot variance, extending them to 1,100 feet, and with a maximum width of walkways to 6 feet, twice the width of current standards. And here's what I'll say. I think 3 feet's not wide enough. I mean, it depends on what you're taking to your boat. It depends on how many you're taking to your boat. 3 feet could actually be dangerous. I don't think there's anything wrong with 6 feet. Again. And here's the other thing. It's not like the DNR is this organization that just, runs roughshod over nature. The DNR is pretty restrictive. The DNR does a very, very good job of looking at, and I think a lot of people kind of go, maybe too good a job. So, when you go up against a developer, you can shake your fist and talk about the evil capitalist developers. But when it's a state agency that most people kind of feel like they've already restricted them, like sport fishermen and that kind of thing, feel like they've already been a little restricted by these guys. You're not going to find a lot of pity opposing the DNR on this one. You're not going to find the DNR is allowing everyone to destroy the ecosystem, because that's not the DNR. That's not who they are. That's not how they behave. I don't think there's anything at all wrong with those rules. Nothing at all. Pilings, thank you. Yes, that's the word I kept saying poles, and I knew there was another word. It just wasn't coming to my brain. But yes, pilings, exactly the word I'm using. But, okay, so the pilings were 3 feet apart. Now they're going to be 6 feet apart. Still 2 pilings. Not going to be a thing. The guy next door said the wider walkway will put more shade on the marsh. Just stop it. Just stop it, people. Again, that's why we got to defang the environmental movement around here. Without wolves, deer were destroying Yellowstone with deforestation. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. If it's not divisible by 8, there will be waste because lumber is sold in lengths of 8. Well, then let's do 8-foot wide docks. That's even better to me. Why not? Let's do it. What that means is you probably won't have a lot of 6-foot wide docks unless somebody's made of money, but you'll probably have a lot of 4-foot wide docks because that way you can slice it up. You get two lengths of pier. I said docks, pier, 2 lengths of pier out of one sheet of wood. So yeah, I mean, again, we're going to be okay. Thank you, Jamie. Good morning to you. Yeah, we'll be all right. Let's see. Let's take a look at what else we have here. Because I know I got a few things I wanted to get into still. Business owner asking questions after 4 standard Starland, district break-ins. Several small businesses in the Starland district have been targeted by burglars in July. One for the Road, a shop in Starland, was the most recent business to be hit with a break-in on Monday night. Starland Strange and Bizarre, along with Starlandia, were also broken into recently. These all sound like something from a sitcom. Someone successfully broke into One for the Road and was able to get into the locked office and stole our secured bank statements and our bank deposits, said Marguerite Seckman, the owner of One for the Road. Seckman also owns Starland Strange and Bizarre, which was broken into twice this month. I'm not going to say it. I'm not going to say it. You're not going to hear me say it. But I'll just say this. You do have Van Johnson who says there is no problem with crime in Savannah. None whatsoever. And yet, here we are talking about crime in Savannah. Hope you didn't notice that, but that's kind of what happened. Hinesville father charged with felony child cruelty after daughter flags down police officer. 11-year-old daughter ran to a passing police officer, told him her father was trying to kill her. And that's not going to do any future damage to you either. Having to live with the fact that your father was trying to kill you. And yet, Hinesville. I'm always proud when it's, our area. My uncle used to live in Hinesville. He lived on Topi Trail. And we always thought it was fascinating because there was a big report somewhere in the archives, somewhere in the future Rifen Museum. I do have the newspaper article about the Topi Trail creature that people reportedly saw an alien hopping about, like a 9-foot alien hopping about on Topi Trail and going into the woods. I don't know what it was, but it was right near my uncle's house. So as kids, we were very excited about that. Matt, see, there you go. That's the thing. People already think the DNR is too restrictive. So when the DNR does something that's not so restrictive, you're not going to whip up a posse against them that way. I'll just say that. That'll be pressure treated lumber that will have to go into a landfill. There you go. They make lumber in 12-inch lengths, 12-foot lengths, no waste. Okay, well, there you go. So you take a 12, make 2 6s. You're good. DNR is brutal. They threatened me with $10,000 a day until I took the upper deck off my dock house. Wow. DNR more powerful than GSP. Exactly. So when the DNR says, this is okay, this is fine, you're not going to get a lot of support when you go against the DNR and tell the DNR to be more restrictive. If your public plea is to tell the DNR to be more restrictive and you think you're going to get a lot of support for that, good luck. That's what I'll say. Good luck on that one, because I don't think it's going to happen. Let's see. I got a couple of, oh yes, the lab leak story. Did you see? Rand Paul put some documents out yesterday. And this is absolutely amazing. Brittany Bernstein, National Review. Let me get this going here. I believe that's your image. Yep, that's it. Now let's transform it so that it's not blocking me. Oops. There we go. just 3 months after a group of scientists published a paper claiming that the COVID lab leak theory was not plausible, several of the researchers began having doubts, according to newly released documents that raised questions about why those researchers continued to defend their conclusions publicly. And I think that's really the thing, because I think we've seen a lot of this stuff before. This one apparently fairly new. But, the question is, why did they continue to say the lab leak theory wasn't plausible when they more and more believed that there was at least a chance of it, and yet they were out there publicly saying, nope, no way, couldn't happen, no way, sorry, it's not a thing. Why did they keep doing that? I mean, you and I think both believe it has something to do with China and China money. But let me go into some of this, because this is some of the stuff you've not heard. Senator Rand Paul's office released private Slack messages between the scientists who authored The Proximal Origin of SARS-CoV-2, a paper published in Nature Medicine in March 2020 that would go on to be widely cited by journalists and public health officials who roundly dismissed the idea that COVID-19 had emerged from a lab leak in Wuhan, China. And see, this is also where the conspiracy theorists go, see, you told us it was a conspiracy theory. So every time we have a conspiracy theory, we're going to point to this and say, see, we're always right. And people with, again, Jon Stewart was even buying into this early on, going, no, there's lab there. They're doing this in the lab. It got out. Pretty easy to figure out, but okay. Lawmakers would later discover that Anthony Fauci, then the director of the National Institute of Allergy, Infectious Diseases, prompted researchers to author the paper and was even involved in the editing and approval process for its final draft. When asked publicly in April 2020 whether COVID may have emerged from a lab, Fauci cited the paper to cast doubt on the theory. In other words, so Fauci basically said, hey guys, write this paper for me. I'd like you to write something that says, hey, there's no way this thing came from a lab. And then they said, how's this, Anthony Fauci? And Fauci went, this is pretty good, but I'd probably change that and that to make sure everybody understands it can't come from a lab. And they say, okay, how about this? He says, great. And then they publish it. And then he goes before Congress and he says, it didn't come from the lab. And they go, how do you know that? And he goes, well, somebody published an article in Nature and it says it. But it was him. This is very similar to like the FISA court abuse in the Donald Trump Russiagate case. You know, where the intelligence agencies created articles, gave articles to reporters who then reported the articles, and then they used the articles as a basis for spying on Trump people. Same MO as the others, as they would say on Police Squad. But in June 2020, one of the scientists, evolutionary biologist and Scripps research professor Christian Anderson, but not Hans, really? Anyway, suggested in private messages with his Proximal Origin co-authors, Andrew Rambaud, Eddie Holmes, Bob Gary, and Ian Lipkin, that he believed there was a 30% chance the virus had come from a lab. And by the way, that's a significant chance. A sharp departure from the conclusion presented in the paper, which held that the lab leak was implausible, which means 0% chance. Holmes, meanwhile, assigned the lab leak a 20% probability, though he later downgraded that to 10%. But again, 10% is infinitely higher than 0%. Our paper was pretty strong in saying there's no way, but I have less confidence in that statement at this stage, Anderson told his colleagues in messages on June 11th, 2020. Paul's office notes the Proximal Origin paper argued that purposeful manipulation of the virus was implausible, but Anderson began to question that after German scientists built a reverse genetic system for SARS-CoV-2 in under 2 weeks. In response to the German development, Anderson wrote, clearly it's not that hard. He also acknowledged that the paper is inaccurate in its claim that bat coronavirus research was widely distributed in labs all around the world, a claim that was used to downplay the significance of the virus emerging in such close proximity to the Wuhan lab. We describe this in the paper and say that this work is performed all over the world, but that isn't true. It has exclusively been going on at the Wuhan Institute of Virology, he wrote. So these are the Slack messages that we said in the paper. Well, this thing could have come from anywhere. They're doing this research everywhere. And it turns out they're not doing it everywhere. They were only doing it at this one lab, which to me significantly ups the possibility that this thing came from a lab. And by the way, let me clarify, I am not now, nor have I ever been, because I've been very consistent in this belief pretty much since you found out about the lab being in Wuhan. I'm not saying that it was deliberately leaked or deliberately put out there as a weapon, but what I am saying is that they had some lax procedures there, things that escaped from there before, and I think this is another situation where that happened. I'm not saying they deliberately did it. That would be the conspiracy part of it. Just days before the messages were sent, Anderson had told the BBC for June 6th, 2020 article that we know this is a fully natural virus because there are so many viruses found in bats. Is that even logic? I don't think that follows, actually. But anyway, what we don't know is how it got into the human population, he said. 1 month after he privately acknowledged there was a chance the pandemic had in fact started in a lab, Anderson was quoted in an article in Science in which Xi Zhengli, who led the group studying bat coronaviruses at Wuhan Institute, denied responsibility for the pandemic and demanded an apology from Donald Trump. This is starting to sound more like Podcast Boy every day. Anderson told the magazine he suspected Xi's answers were carefully vetted by the Chinese Communist Party, but said they're all logical, genuine, and stick to the science as one would have expected from a world-class scientist and one of the leading experts on coronaviruses. Other than lying, yeah. In a July 6, 2020 Sky News article, Anderson defended the proximal origin paper and criticized a paper from British clinical scientist Angus Dalgleish and Birger Sorensen, chairman of Norwegian company Immunor, that raised the possibility that the virus had been manipulated in a laboratory. Anderson called Dalgleish and Sorensen's work complete nonsense, unintelligible, and not even remotely scientific, leading the authors to make unfounded and unsupported conclusions about the origin of SARS-CoV-2, even while he is privately going, I think this might have come out of the lab. He's very publicly not saying that. And again, I feel like you have Chinese fingers all over this. And not just because the fingerprints are dainty, but I feel like you have, I feel like you have the Chinese government's fingers all over this. I feel like you have Chinese manipulation all over this as well. I don't think that's just me. Let's take a look at the comments quickly. The difference between a conspiracy theory and the truth is about 6 months. Well, again, there's a lot of conspiracy theory out there. We've dealt with it for almost, for 63 years with JFK. So it's, they still haven't truthed that one, and the moon landing. The virus can also be transmitted from human to human, as we very, very well know. Improved by human efforts. Yes, and that's what they were doing in the lab. That was what the lab was doing. They were, the purpose of the lab was to try and figure out what the next thing is so they can get ahead of it so that when it does actually evolve naturally, they will be prepared to move forward and protect against it. And instead, they manipulated this thing and it got out, and they weren't prepared because, again, hadn't finished the work. So just the lies. And then when people, they're blown away when people don't trust these institutions and these figures. It's like, yeah, I'll tell you why they don't trust them, because they've lied to people over and over and over and over and over again. Really quickly, I've got am I hooked into the sound for this? I don't think I am. Hang on a second. Let me there we go. Yes, now I'm going to be hooked into the sound. You got to understand, I show prep in another room, just like I did in the radio show. I show prep in another room, and then I come in here, and I come in here just like on two wheels. So, Congressman Brandon Gill has been on fire for a little while, but continues to be on fire. Brandon Gill had the president of the American Bar Association on there. There is an effort to squash this DEI mentality, this everything, everyone who wants to claim to be a victim, who wants to get ahead in the world, claims to be a victim. And, they've been damaged by somebody else throughout history. It's not their fault. And one of them is this notion of implicit bias, which we actually had. If you remember, we had the thing here a while back when Jacques Baptiste was Jacques Baptiste was the police chief. He was trying to have an implicit bias seminar here, and we pushed back against it. And then they did this weird Obama thing. You remember when Obama was going to give all the school children a talk? I'm going to be talking to all the school children, and we'll be beaming my speech by satellite into the school kid. And then they leaked part of what the speech was going to be, and it was just straight up communist stuff. And so people got really mad and upset. And I don't want my kids hearing that. And so schools literally had to kind of go, okay, if you don't want your kid to hear the president of the United States speak. And I wouldn't have done that, by the way. I would have been like, it's the president of the United States. We'll straighten out the problems later. But you do sit and listen to the president of the United States. But then, of course, none of the stuff they leaked was actually in the speech. There was still some socialisty stuff, but it wasn't the hardcore stuff that was leaked. And they went, see, all of you adults were just jumped the gun and you presume something and blah, blah, blah. And it was, this was all done on purpose. This is the kind of thing Obama would do as administration. They would leak something that would seem way worse than it really was. And then everybody would get outraged. That's one reason I just couldn't do the outrage of the day every day, was because a lot of it was just being faked. But they would have the outrage of the day. They would let it leak. And then everybody get really mad, and then they would turn around and, oh, well, actually, it wasn't that. It wasn't so bad after all. Never mind. Oh, it's okay. And no. No, but they would do that, and they would do it because then they could say, oh, you fools, you're just reactive extremists. You just think we're just an extremist, so you're being extremist in response, and and so they would do it to make people, conservatives, look bad. And they would win points with the public doing that. So anyway, that was that. But that's what Batiste did when he had his implicit bias training, because then invited the public to it, and then afterwards turned out he didn't even do implicit bias training. But the president of the ABA, the American Bar Association, was in front of Congress, and Brandon Gill pointed out that the ABA's website says all people have implicit biases. The problem with that is it disqualifies, accepting that premise, it disqualifies every single person from a jury, basically. Brandon Gill, to the president of the ABA.
According to the ABA's website, quote, all of us have implicit biases. Would you agree with that statement?
The ABA believes that diversity, equity, and inclusion improves.
Would you agree with the statement that, quote, all of us have implicit biases from the ABA's website?
The ABA believes that diversity in all of
is
its
that a
realms
yes?
is
Can I
important.
take that? It's a yes or no question. Do you believe
She's not
that all
answering
of
the
us have
question.
implicit biases, as your website says?
The ABA looks to remove barriers, and we examine.
That's not my question, ma'am. Do you believe that all of us have implicit biases?
I've expressed what the
You do.
ABA is doing.
That
with
is
its
the
diversity work.
ABA's position, as expressed by their website. Against which groups do you have implicit biases?
The ABA believes that it's important to always
Are you going to filibuster? Because it doesn't make you sound very good. I'm going to ask you again, against which groups do you have implicit biases?
It's important to always examine everyone's point of view
Yes.
and where they may need to
It
consider.
is.
You said
What about
everyone.
your point of view?
I am here as the president of the American Bar Association,
And I'm asking you what your implicit biases are.
the ABA is an entity.
Have you reflected on your implicit biases?
I think about how I
are
operate
they?
the world constantly.
Would you like to explain to us what they are?
I am here speaking on behalf of the ABA, and the ABA.
Right.
So basically, your implicit biases are conservative. Now, let me do this too. Also, the Trump administration has gotten into a lot of hot water among some on the left, and people on the right may not even have known this, but they've changed historical displays. They've removed things from historical. They've gone after the Smithsonian. There's a reason for that. Let me give you this from National Review. Brian T. Allen. The Domestic Policy Council has just published its audit of the woke poison at the Smithsonian's National Museum of American History. Saving America's Story, How Ideological Capture at the Smithsonian Institution's National Museum of American History Erases Our Heritage. It's a doozy of an expose. 162 pages, 522 footnotes that reveals the museum's director and the key staff she's appointed as lunatics, full moon howlers. The History Museum's problem, the report tells us, isn't that it's added overlooked stories, corrected perceived errors, and broadened its historical scope. All that's fine. But we learned that the museum, from its perch on the National Mall with 2.1 million visitors in 2024 and 60% of its budget from the taxpayers, has gone out of its way to define the country by white supremacy, slavery, conquest, exclusion, hierarchy, racism, xenophobia, misogyny, and systemic injustice. Lovely. The report points to the need for an overdue Augean stable to deep clean, starting with the regents, the Smithsonian's trustees, and Lonnie Bunch, the Smithsonian's head, along with his senior staff, and Anthea Hartig, the director of the History Museum. Hartig fits snugly in the movement among American historians to drain the heroics and virtue from the country's founding, to problematize it, as the lingo puts it, and to rewrite it along the same lines as the 1619 Project, America as a white supremacist, slavery-based proposition. Hartig's a museum bureaucrat and a mediocrity who's hung her hat on bubblegum woke ideology since she can't do it on scholarship. She hasn't produced much, so what do we get? You're either oppressed or an oppressor. Race explains everything. The United States didn't start as a political, ideological, and ethical project in 1776 with the Declaration, or in 1620 with the Mayflower, but in 1619 when the first slaves came to Virginia. The grifter, race pimp, and fake redhead Nicole Hannah Jones might have assembled the 1619 Project and written most of it, but she's a Black Studies academic. Inserting it into our museums and classrooms was the work of the New York Times and the Smithsonian, which sponsored the book version. Hartig was among the engineers, builders, and administrators, one of many at the Smithsonian. We'll start with the big lie. The current mission of the museum is empowering people to create a more just and compassionate future. I'm a historian, an art historian inclined to American studies, and never saw my work or interests leading to a more just and compassionate future. I'm an art historian mostly because I love art. I love history because I'm curious about people and how the country and I, two different propositions, got to where we are. I love history for its entertaining, riveting, and sobering stories. Its propensity to warn is priceless. Don't be stupid is history's clarion call to us today. At today's Smithsonian, history is a call to arms. Did you get into the museum business in order to be an agent of social change? The Smithsonian's undersecretary asked Deborah Mack, the system's reckoning with our racial past chief in 2021. Actually, absolutely, she said with a flapper's glee. She pledged to enlist the entire staff working in ways that reinforce their activism, their sense of equity, their sense of social justice. Hartig agreed, saying that's why she came to the Smithsonian. She wants to get out of the America First mentality when telling history. Does she ever listen to herself? She's the director of the American History Museum. See, when you're telling American history, it should be America first. The fundamental, and I've said this before, there is no other country on the planet that loathes itself like America does. There's no other country on the planet that goes, in the German History Museum, we must make sure we de-emphasize Germany. And Germany, of all places, probably should. The fundamental needs of a democratic and civilized society are domestic peace and social justice. She said, no justice, no peace. Isn't that Mangione's line? I hate agenda directors and agenda curators like Hartig. With Hartig's push, the museum has embraced illegal immigrants as heirs to slaves and pre-suffrage, pre-feminism women. It's worked closely with illegal immigrant groups, especially the DACA cohort. The museum also aims to develop what she calls a pan-institutional effort at the Smithsonian to reframe American history through the lens of migration, legal but mostly illegal. Smithsonian education materials, mostly lesson plans and publications, push a more accurate and inclusive migration and immigration narrative. Teachers of hundreds of thousands of kids have gotten these materials promoting the notion that citizenship for illegals is a right and that we should eliminate immigration and customs enforcement. The museum's mid-level staff connive and connive a lot with groups promoting illegal immigration. That's not history. The report cites spots aside from the 1619 Project's contortions and myths where Americans' founding fathers got the predictable trashing. Washington, Jefferson, and Franklin owned slaves. Franklin might have used his slaves and his indentured service for electrical experiments, the museum told us, while admitting there's no evidence. Where do I hear that phrase a lot? That's what passes as scholarship at the History Museum. The Pilgrims were, to use Hamas speak, settler colonialists. Columbus, said Kevin Gover, the Smithsonian's #2 administrator and past director of the American Indian Museum, was a slaver, murderer, and thief. The History Museum agrees. If Columbus lived in 1942 instead of 1492, he'd be a Nazi. I made that one up. The report faults the History Museum for not profiling our forebears' immense positives. Columbus was a visionary, adventurer, and explorer. Washington was the indispensable man. Franklin was the age's premier polymath. Jefferson was our premier dreamer politician. These men are giants. They teach us what great leaders can achieve. There's very little Lincoln in the museum either. That these aspects are not writ large and proud is a massive curatorial and factual failure. It's a failure in storytelling, too. Humanity has turned into stick figures, totems for good and evil. They make history boring. When asked last year what her favorite objects in the museum collection were, what most inspired her on the eve of America's 250th, Hartig cited costumes worn in The Handmaid's Tale, a cane belonging to Haitian General Toussaint Louverture, and Billie Jean King's tennis outfit, because, Hartig said in a lecture, she was a social justice pioneer who defeated outspoken chauvinist Bobby Riggs in the Battle of the Sexes tennis match, which, by the way, you all know Bobby Riggs was not a chauvinist. You all know that Bobby Riggs threw that match, right? There's very solid evidence to indicate that that was a put on. Just saying. That yes, Bobby Riggs actually had to throw the match. Way past his prime, man, Bobby Riggs had to throw the match. And a pair of hand-painted supersized monarch butterfly wings, the logo of the Dreamers. Crazy and performative, angry liberal white woman stuff. Hartig's education director, Orlando Serrano, supports reparations and repatriation of land to native tribes, what's called the Remaurification of America. Together with Hartig, they've developed a Center for Restorative History to address harms. Harm is the new pop word, by the way, for grudge and grievance, for leaving visitors feeling depressed and angry. They both love land acknowledgments, but want to actually put teeth in them through givebacks of land or federal money. They want to expand the history of the United States so it includes the entire hemisphere. This outfit aims at a full-scale reordering of the world. That is their quote. I wouldn't want this woman babysitting my child. Why would I want her reordering the world? At Hartig's museum, the Marxist feminist Angela Davis gets the spotlight with a quote by her highlighted in an exhibit about women's invisible labor. You have to act as if it were possible to radically transform the world. These Smithsonian staff are in the wrong line of work. If transforming the world is their cup of tea, they should get a job at Ford, Mellon, or the Open Society Foundations, or run for office, or go on The View. Then they can feel warm and fuzzy, virtuous and important, fight the good fight, sing We Shall Overcome, or 99 Luft balloons at the top of their lungs. The report also describes a 200-page primer called Museums as a Site for Social Action Toolkit. Written by Smithsonian insiders past and present as a recipe for purging dominant Western ideals of race, class, and gender, and there they go again, white supremacy, heteropatriarchy, abusive labor, colonization, imperialist theft of art and artifacts, structural racism, and other oppressions. It was must-reading at the History Museum in the early 2020s. That's Hartig's mission. In 2020, something similar got yanked out of the teacher lesson plans published by the Smithsonian's African American History and Culture Museum. Protestant work ethic? Bad. Scientific method, meaning objective rational thinking? Very white of you. Grammar? Patriarchy, 5-alarm fire, and on and on. It's part of Bunch and Hartig's 1619 Project agenda. When the Smithsonian-backed book version was published, Bunch called it a great victory and wanted to ensure that everyone saw the Smithsonian's fingerprints on it. He should be fired for that alone. Hardig has also interjected gender ideology into the museum, tossing what she calls who gets to be a girl into the mix of museum topics. In one exhibition, there's a PC glossary. It's best to ask people who are gender fluid what their pronouns are, her glossary advises. A child may feel like a girl one day and a boy another day. I'd say skip the pronouns, do 50 push-ups, and put away your toys. And why in the world would the museum display the spandex chest binder that trans non-binary skateboarder Leo Lacey Baker, a woman, wears to make herself look like a man? And why so many girl power exhibitions? How about boys? So many seem to be lost. I've talked about this over and over again. And I'll tell you, when I was at the National Archives and they had a museum in there, and it's an offshoot of the Smithsonian, obviously under their curation, I saw the same thing. I talked about it at the time. Hardig is so full of herself that she doesn't understand she represents the museum. Don't these nuts understand they work for the government, get their money from Congress, aren't free riders, and need to show some circumspection? They're not pushing unvarnished history, as Bunch claims. They're pushing anti-human, anti-history trash. The report is damning and astonishing. Stealth quotas, conferences led by left-wing hacks, a best bud relationship with the odious Southern Poverty Law Center, pushing abortion on demand and the notion that Thanksgiving should be a national day of mourning. Yes. COVID and racism presented as America's twin pandemics, and turn on the waterworks for these. There's a dumb squiggle for a logo and 400 DEI initiatives proudly touted in 2023. The ukulele is racist. Mickey Mouse is a black minstrel in disguise. Worst of all, the report finds is Hardig's horrifying edict that every exhibition must be linked to one of these 7 themes or it won't get her green light. Race and identity are at the top of the list. Then there's gender and sexuality, environmental change, which means advancing the climate hoax, and immigration, the more illegal the better, inequality, technical change, and nationalism, and that's it. If you do a D-Day show, you better have a trans angle. Display Julia Child's kitchen. Her gas stove might bake the flakiest croissant, but it melts the glaciers too. A show on Christmas displays, Nazi and Christian nationalist propaganda. Patent models, an exhibition I enjoyed, racist. Celebrates imagination, science, and initiative. White to a fault. They've done Phyllis Diller, but how about Joan Rivers or Carol Burnett's comedy? Rivers was Jewish and automatically an oppressor. Burnett, racist. Miss Ellen's Poitiers, need I say more? The Smithsonian is too important to abandon. I hope Trump and Congress can put this particular left-wing march through our institutions in reverse gear. The time is now or never. Here's the thing about it. Don't forget. Oh, yeah. Yeah. No, you're right. You're right. Number 8 says, don't forget to talk about the bookstore at the Smithsonian, the lack of anything that isn't left-wing propaganda on sale. Mostly true. Now, I didn't go into a lot of the Smithsonian when I was in DC, but like I said, I did go to the archives. I saw the exact same thing. The museum display at the archives when I was there was sports. Oh, look at the great history of American sports. And the first thing you see when you go in there was George W. Bush's jacket when he threw out the first pitch at Yankee Stadium after 9/11. And you go, yeah, this is it. Yes, this is great. This is wonderful. And then after that, everything after that is first black person do this, first woman to do this, first gay person do this, first trans person do this. And that's all it was after that was identity politics afterward. Nothing else. And look, there's a place for talking about race issues when you're talking about sports. Jesse Owens, Jackie Robinson. But everything is not about race and gender. There's a place for it, and it should be included. But it shouldn't be what it's 100%, or in this case, 98% about. But this led to a discussion about the Smithsonian and the notion that we can't be too white. So this guy, Jesse Arm, is on CNN. He's the vice president of the Manhattan Institute, which is a conservative organization. It's a think tank. And one of the things that they talk about in this report is the notion that they brand so many really dumb things as white supremacy. As I mentioned earlier, scientific inquiries, white supremacist. And in this case, objectivity is white supremacy. Objectivity. And this discussion actually happened on CNN.
Smithsonian was promoting as a document to be upheld around that time period, 2020, 2021, whatever it may have been, suggested that objectivity was a tool of white supremacy. I think we can all agree that that is facially ridiculous. And you think objectivity is a tool of white supremacy?
I'm not going to interrupt you. I just want to say you presume things that were not true.
Do you believe that objectivity is a tool of white supremacy?
Well, you said we can all agree on something. I'm just saying we don't all.
Can we all agree that objectivity is a tool of white supremacy?
That requires a longer discussion we're going to have in the 6 minutes we have left.
So what do you, I pose the
I don't
question
want
to
to
you,
talk
is
about that.
objectivity
I just don't want you
but
to
you
make
interrupted me to make that point.
Because you made an assumption about me that's not true.
So
just
is my
continue on.
no, I'd like to know, is your
I
assumption
don't want to talk
inaccurate?
about. I want you to continue.
Well, look,
You
I
interrupted
mean,
me,
but
so I'm
hold on,
giving you the
but hold on.
opportunity to
Can I
weigh
just-
in.
I'm
Can I
giving
just,
you the opportunity
because
to
we
finish
don't
your
have
thought.
that much.
Because he very quickly, Jesse Arm very quickly takes the really stupid, makes it look really stupid, and then makes everybody basically agree that the really stupid is really stupid. And this guy stands up and says, no, wait, I'm not going to. But then, so when he says, okay, fine. The guy, by the way, is Keith Boykin, New York Times bestselling author Keith Boykin. His, by the way, his new book is called Why Does Everything Have to Be About Race? And it's not like when you and I say it, when we go, why does everything have to be about race? It's literally his agreement, his explanation to you of why everything has to be about race. But anyway, yeah. So Boykin says, oh, no, I don't agree with that. And so he says, so Jesse Arm says, okay, so you're saying that objectivity is a tool of white. No, I'm not saying that, but you did. You did. All right. Let's go on quickly because we're running out of time. I haven't even gotten everything. Queen Elizabeth cheated at poker every time she came back in the bathroom. She had a royal flair. The dad jokes continue. Gone too far when you go after Mickey. That's right. Trans people, sort of. Need to get some South Georgia. They do exist. Diane, number 70, came up with them, and she had them made. I think BRC was the ones who made them. Wasn't it BRC? My buddy, Coach Kevin over there. Kevin, by the way, after we were, what a great guy. Kevin Head at BRC was one of the first people to call me after the iHeart mass firing happened. And he literally called me to say, if you need work, I can put you to work. And I mean, you don't know how far stuff like that goes. It was a wonderful gesture. I already had things cooking because I pretty much immediately started cooking things up because, again, I just had been this was on my mind for a while. But yeah, it's, yeah, that's true. You know what? That's right. Now, see, yes, number 8 says I still wear mine in protest because he did. So anyway, they designed them at BRC and people could you could go to BRC and order it and have your number put in, whatever your South Georgia 40 number was, you could have that put on the shirt. And I have one. I'll have to wear it one morning. But I just got to thinking, it's got the radio station logos. It's got TKS and GIG's radio station logos. So those are going to be outdated. But yeah, you could actually go, and I don't know, I think it was like $40, which is about par for the course, even if you ordered it online from somebody. Plus you're helping support a local business like BRC Science. Again, they're just really, really great people. But yeah, we're going to have to change that. And we can't change it yet because everything's not in place officially yet, but things will change. And we'll have to do that. We'll have to make South Georgia 40 t-shirts available. I will tell you also this, a buddy of mine has asked if he can be the merchandiser for the program once we get things running. So that may happen too, because I like him a lot. So the one day the president comes to my town is the day I'm in another state. So yeah, because Trump was in Georgia yesterday speaking to students. But you weren't going to be able to go to that anyway, right? I think. What state are you in anyway? That's the Postal Bureau chief, by the way, weighing in on YouTube. I remind you again, boy, we have gone a long time today. We've gone almost 2 hours. This is, by the way, almost as much content as you got during a 4-hour show when I was doing a 4-hour show. But I really do need to get running because we do have a lot going on today. And I do have, I have at least 2 meetings that I know of today that I'm going to have to get into, and a bunch of phone calls I wind up making all day. I've got some other things in the hopper that I'm going to have to try and do today. So there's a lot going on, but just know that, that things are happening. Progress is being made. It is slow. I hate that it's this slow. You hate that it's this slow. We together hate that it's this slow, but it is, unfortunately. So That having been said, I got to get out of here for the day. I want to thank Henry Ball for coming on board after what was a very, very emotional day for him. Because again, it just, like, I'm crushed by this, but Henry has just, I mean, he's been right there in the middle of it. He has made this a large part of his life. So I thank him for coming on and joining us this morning. I remind you to please subscribe to the YouTube channel, youtube.com/@ScottRifen. Like the videos, because again, that helps us. That's very favorable to us as far as the algorithm goes. And just please, please, please spread the word, and we'll be there for you. All right. Got to get out of here. We will see you guys tomorrow morning for Friday. See you then.